This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So welcome everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 12th, and this is the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership, and it is 6:02 p.m. All right, we do have a quorum even without Jackie. So the first thing I just want to do is quickly approve the minutes for May, and then we can introduce ourselves and speak to our guests. So did folks get the May minutes that Jackie sent out? Did
Yes.
Everybody have a chance to look at them? Is there any comments or edits to the minutes?
No.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor? Aye, and Jana.
Aye. Yeah.
Great.
Aye.
Great.
Kayam, aye.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. So that's our only business for tonight. So we have an exciting meeting this evening, which is unusual for us in the summer. And so I want to welcome our guests from 385 Main Street to tell us about their project. I will have you all introduce yourselves. I don't know who wants to go first.
Thanks so much, Jana. I can kick us off. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here, and thank you. I understand this is a special meeting. We really appreciate you accommodating our schedules and inviting us here this evening. My name is Rachna Crowley. I am a Director of Development with the Community Builders. I'm here with Julia Scannell, Project Manager, also with the Community Builders, and Mark Wamsley from Kestrel Land Trust, our partner in 385 Main Street. So we do have a presentation for you, which Julia will run through in a moment. Jana, if you can give us the rights to do that, that'd be great.
Yep.
In the meantime, I'll just briefly kick off, and Mark can feel free to add another, brief introduction. TCB has been really pleased to be working with Kestrel over the last year or so, as they have really taken the lead with the seller, the current owner of this property. And we're just pleased that we can work together with them to partner on a joint conservation and housing development. You all did the great work of identifying this in your housing production plan as a site for housing, and we're really happy that we can serve the needs of Easthampton. Specific to affordable housing is a proposal you'll see today. Another interesting thing you'll see as Julia walks through it is the Community Builders manages an adjacent site to 385 Main Street called College Highway, and we'll go into more of that in the presentation. But Mark, do you have anything else to add before we let Julia sort of jump in?
I would just concur that I'm thrilled that we've reached this point and that our partnership has developed. And I would thank everyone for their patience, who've known that this is potentially percolating in the background. It's definitely complicated pulling everything together, but things are really moving in a wonderful direction. So I'll let Julia take over and we can kind of fill you in through the presentation. But again, thank you so much for inviting us.
Great. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not shared through this platform before. What is it?
There is a little button down at the bottom next to the hand that says present now.
I think I've got it. No, I got it, and then it wanted me to share all my web tabs first.
Okay.
Which would have been a real nightmare. Are we seeing PowerPoint? Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. So
and you can anyone else see it? I can see it.
No.
No.
If you under next to the where you would hang up, there's three little dots, and if you change the layout to spotlight, oh, that's just Julia. I thought that would do it. It's
It
showing
says
up as
right
like
in
a
here-
tile.
Tile worked for me, and then when I found it, I hit the not safety pin, push pin.
That works.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
There it goes.
So it's working. And if I change
Can
the
everybody
page,
see it?
it
Yep.
works? Okay.
Yeah, I
Great.
can see it now.
Wonderful. So sorry for the technical learning here. Hi everyone, my name is Julia Scannell. I work with Reshna at the Community Builders. And really excited to be here tonight presenting this really exciting project that, as Mark and Reshna mentioned, we've been working on for over a year now at 385 Main Street, which is a really exciting project for Easthampton, but also for myself and in the affordable housing world. To be able to develop affordable housing with land conservation together is really dynamic, and really excited about this opportunity. Oops, okay, maybe I didn't work it out. There we go. Just a quick intro to TCB is kind of what we go by. Our mission is to build and sustain strong communities where all people can thrive. We are a nonprofit organization that's headquartered in Boston, but has a regional approach to the development work that we do. So Reshna and myself are based out of Northampton, and we're both long-term residents of Western Massachusetts. So really connected to the communities and the development work that we do here, and really keyed into the really unique and specific needs of Western Massachusetts and these small cities that we all love. Some recent projects here that maybe folks might be familiar with on the screen, including affordable and high sustainability passive house, public housing, and Section 8 housing, all within our recent development work. Mark, do you want to speak to Kestrel real quick?
Sure, and I should say, I for some reason still can't see the PowerPoint, but I can kind of do this.
Either, just so you know, I can't see anything either.
You hit, do you have it on tile view?
Yeah.
And then if you hit the little pin, did that not work?
Okay, hold on. Let me just find the pin. Sorry, I may have missed that one.
If you're like in the middle of the screen, there's like a little pop-up box that pops up, and it has a pin, a mic, and something else. It's like a little 3 buttons.
Oh, I think it's if you hover over the tile where the PowerPoint is, Mark.
Okay. Let me just, okay, here we go. Thank you very much.
Do you see that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I do. This is okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Great, I'm now caught up. So yes, for those of us who don't know Kestrel Land Trust, we are a regional land conservation organization that works in the Connecticut River Valley. We serve roughly 19 towns, and we have been around since 1970, so we just turned 50 a few years ago. We are a generalist land trust, working to protect various land-based natural resources, everything from forest habitat to farmlands to open space and recreational resources in the community. There are actually really a lot of reasons that I think it makes sense for land trusts to be coordinating more with affordable housing groups, not the least of which is really to make sure that the benefits of access to quality conserved open space is really equitably experienced by communities out there, which it often isn't right now. A lot of times, really great parks and other amenities of that nature are in more expensive neighborhoods. And really the people who could most benefit from them and who they could most positively affect their lives don't have the access that other folks can have. And then there's also other side kind of side impacts, that can occur with conservation, unintended impacts, like the increase of land values in a community. Everyone loves to move to communities that have a lot of open space, be it farms, be it great vistas, be it wonderful parks, but that tends to drive up land values, which again makes the open space less accessible to a diversity of communities. So there are many reasons why Kestrel got involved in this project, which we can certainly talk more about, but that's really kind of the driving force. And we've really found a a kind of practical working partnership so far with TCB, which is really wonderful, which is really allowing this project to go forward as we hope it will. So again, you can see some of our projects that you may know in the pictures here, some of you may not. Obviously, Mount Tom North Trailhead Park, which is a partnership with the city. I understand they had some good rains the other day. I was just talking with Jeff about that, but some really wonderful places that we hope you get to visit and hope we can create more in these surrounding communities. So you can move us on, Julia.
Great. So our vision for this project is everything that, Mark just went into, a partnership between an affordable housing developer and a land trust organization to advance our really aligned visions for more affordable housing, more land conservation, equitable access to all the wonderful things that land conservation can bring, and to produce more affordable housing in the city of Easthampton. So right now, the housing portion of the project is envisioned to be up to 90 new rental units constructed on the frontage of the property. And I'll show some maps later to show the developed land versus conserved land. And it'll be a general mix from studios to 3 bedrooms. And then also the rehab and long-term preservation of the 40-unit elderly property that TCB manages called College Highway. That's right to the south of this parcel. So really strategically located to be able to reinvest in that community. It's something that TCB, as a long-term nonprofit owner and manager of properties, we like to do. That property was built in the 1990s. So it's beautiful. And actually we were just there the other day. It's in lovely shape, definitely needing some system upgrades and site accessibility. So to put this all together is really going to build, mixed age, generational, multi-type of living campus, which we're really excited about. It's envisioned as 100% affordable from those at the, labeled extremely low income all the way up to workforce housing, which we see up to 80% of area median income, which typically in this market is on par with what the unrestricted market rate units, not maybe not the most high end, but like typical stuff on the market rents for. So we really feel like that can capture a really large portion of the market, and especially the missing middle folks who are having trouble securing market rate rentals just being priced out. And the new construction buildings will be built to a really high level of sustainability and energy standards, which we will develop exactly what that is as the project moves forward. We envision, Passive House is a certification that TCB is very familiar with, and we often build to that standard. So as we develop the drawings, that will come together. Over 40 acres of the parcel will then be conserved. So we're only going to be building on the frontage. And I'll read what you wrote here, Mark, and if you want to expand more, please interrupt me. But currently the parcel is agricultural on some, and then just forested land on others. And so we would like to continue some of the agricultural use. And I think we're still developing partnerships and ideas for what that looks like. Passive recreation, hiking trails, walking trails, wildlife habitat, restoring that, improving what exists today, views of Pomeroy Mountain, wetland protection and restoration. We've done many studies on the site, and there are existing, fingers of wetlands there that can be restored and brought back and improve the natural habitat there. So a lot of, it's not just being conserved back there. We will also, increase the conservation of that land. And overall, just the project leverages frontage, which, has value to an open parcel of land to promote both of these causes, both affordable housing and land conservation, and connects into existing infrastructure and trail systems and conservation networks that exist today, and brings access to that equitably. So here is the overall parcel. And so the red is the whole parcel to be purchased. And the yellow is the to be developed. So one part of this is that Kestrel, or whoever the end owner is for the conservation agent, does need to maintain ownership of some frontage. So that's envisioned as an existing farm road that exists there today. So we'll allow public access back to that land without interrupting folks who are going to call the housing parcel of this home. And then the orange arrow is pointing to College Highway, which is the existing 40-unit property that we manage. And here's just the site again, shaded in, I think it's kind of like yellow, close to that green, but showing the different conservation areas that we either abut or are quite close to. So this will really be a gateway to some of these conservation areas that are, less accessible. And here it's a little hard to see. It's a really light overlay, but this is, a potential layout plan. This has changed since when that, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse on the screen, but this building, everything is being shifted a little bit closer down this way. But we do envision a loop road with minimal, limit paving through here, one-way loop road connecting folks from College Highway into the site and exiting or entering, we're still developing that, off the existing driveway that exists for College Highway. We've been, speaking with the city, and that we envision a lot of improvements along College Highway, including, a bus depot both for public and school buses, access parking for access to the rail trail that's across the way, and the the conservation land. So a lot of great thought going into how we program the space while limiting development on sensitive areas and the keeping of the agricultural use of some of the other open spaces. And it's just a quick overview of what College Highway is. It views out right into the field, which is really lovely and will lead for a really great connection for our residents living at this site to new residents living across the way. It's a senior and disabled property, so those populations can sometimes feel quite isolated. So by adding in a new community of multi-generational folks living across the way will really improve those connections. Timeline for this project. I'll let this speak for itself, but the highlights are where we are right now is we're starting our community outreach with local presentations and conversations with the city about potential funding requests. Kestrel is leading the work on negotiating with the seller, and we hope to have an agreed to term quite soon. This will be a 40B, a friendly 40B is what they call that. And we have been working with Jeff Bagg about this project for about a year now. I think we had our first meeting with Jeff. So that's the city's preference for how this moves forward. So we look to begin that process in the fall. And we think that we should be able to secure that permitting in the first quarter of 2024. And I'm sure, as everyone in this group knows, this work does take a long time, the affordable housing development. So it would be low-income housing tax credit financing is envisioned as the primary source of funding here, in addition to lots of others. So that is a competitive resource in the state of Massachusetts. So we think we will be able to apply for that in 2025 and close on the first phase in 2026. The first phase would be likely new construction of one of the 30-unit buildings, and then the preservation of the 40-unit building. And the second phase would begin in 2027, and that would be the production of two 30-unit buildings, so 60 units total. Great. So our next steps are to really jump into a robust community engagement process, including, this group is our first step that we wanted to take, but also, looking for your feedback and expertise on maybe how we build our community engagement plan as the community best. We would love to reach out to abutters, to stakeholders, to others in the community who are going to want to know more about this project, feel impacted by it, and want to help guide our process here. So here's where we're seeing the future right now. Kind of talk through some of this process, but for tonight, I guess what we'd be looking for are, from my brief presentation, are there things that you can highlight that you think we're missing? Is there something that folks are aware of in the community that we're not, that we should anticipate a response to, or incorporate into our process as we move forward? Are there other key stakeholders I haven't mentioned who you think we should be speaking with? What are the key highlights of this project that we should focus on, and what are things that maybe we don't need to talk about as much? Some future requests we in partnership we'd be looking for is support, potential requests to the CPC and at ZBA hearings. Our competitive financing process is often asking for letters of support. So that's, way in the future, but just some ways we envision partnership together. And then how often would you like to hear from us to attend your meetings, to hear updates, to be involved? Yeah, that's what I have this evening. Okay, and I think I can stop sharing.
I think so. And then I think we can all unpin it, and then we can see each other more clearly. Yeah, so Jackie, go ahead.
So first I want to apologize for having my camera off. I'm just not in a location where it makes sense for me to have my camera on. Anyway, I think this is so exciting. What a great project is what I want to say. A couple things that are occurring to me. One is because of the location, I suspect it won't have as much opposition as other projects that we have seen in the past, which is good. I suspect also, though, that some of the sticking points will be around how much traffic increase will there be on College Highway, and how many more kids is this going to put into the school system? And you already know this. Julia's like nodding. Yep, been on that. But those are the kind of things that I think, like, those are conversations you'll want to have, right, going forward. But yeah, this is awesome. So those are my comments.
Thank you. And those are your spot on. Those are like the first things, right? Anyone asks about these kind of projects. And, we have really great data we have a lot of like type projects to this, and, understanding like how many school age children typically are associated with a 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom unit. So we can definitely be armed with that data as we go through this community engagement project. And yeah, parking and traffic studies will all be required and ordered.
Ben, go ahead.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I ditto what Jackie said. This is a fabulous and exciting project, and a really cool partnership with the Kestrel Land Trust, and opportunity to conserve an important parcel. It looks like it backs up to the Manhan there, so good. Especially we see today the importance of preserving floodplain areas and that kind of stuff. But wanted to mention a few things. One, kind of piggybacking off what Jackie said about traffic. You might, in other presentations, you might want to highlight it looks like the Nashawanic Express, like PVTA bus runs nearby. And I'm sure you know that from the College Highway apartment. So like highlighting that as a service for, for mobility and transportation for residents there, and also proximity to the bike trail, presents an opportunity for, reducing car trips as well. The other thing I wanted to, I had a question on that, which was also kind of wondering what the city's MassWorks application might look at. And then my other question / like some consideration is just to talk about the management of the property. Like how that looks in terms of ongoing management. You're already in the area with the College Highway apartments. And I'm curious kind of what your management looks like there, and with, potentially, folks transitioning from homelessness or something, like, is there any case kind of management work happening potentially on the new project? So kind of those are my few questions I had, but otherwise it's a fantastic project. So
Great, thank you. So I can answer those for you. On the MassWorks, you guys are hitting all of our points, so that's great. We've had ongoing conversations with Jeff Bagg. The city is very actively interested in pursuing a joint MassWorks application together for this. We envision the work associated with our project would be to bring the utilities to the site and the build out of that loop road, and maybe the binder course, the first layer of some paved surfaces. And then improvements to the existing sewer at College Highway, which is just aged and probably not graded their best. So those improvements. And then the city, from what I understand, the sewer improvements that were made aren't fully connected in this version of College Highway. So they would look to fully connect that to sewer improvements they've made off. I'm going to forget the name. There's a little one-way or dead-end street off of quite close to here, I think, that connects to the sewer plant. And so they'd like to make that full connection. So they really align well with this location.
Perfect. Yeah.
Also, built out of that of a bus depot, not depot is the wrong word, but like a bus stop fully off the road with a covered waiting area for the PPTA and also for the public school buses, or that might be, bringing services for folks here, and connections to that rail trail. And then your second question about the ongoing management here. So right now we have on-site management at College Highway. I believe they're there 4 days a week. And that is sufficient for management of 40 units. We would envision to scale up the on-site presence here for the units as we add them through phases. So we would be building out a new management office and lobby and all of that as part of the new project. Increased maintenance. I believe when the project would be fully staffed, it would likely have 2 full-time management folks and 2 full-time maintenance with the proper office and workshop area for that. You're right that often we're not quite sure what the program looks like for folks who are going to live here. So if we do have special populations housed here, we would bring in services. Most of the time, those special population units do come with folks who are receiving services from agencies, but the Community Builders also has a wing of our organization called Community Life, where we do provide resident services and connect residents to local services. So that functions out of College Highway already, not at a 4-day-a-week time period, but I believe 2.5 days a week. They have those services there. So we would ramp that up to likely a full-time position to serve the residents of College Highway and this to be developed property. So we really are really resident focused at the Community Builders and agree that it's not just property management, but whole services is what we want to promote long-term tenancy and success of our residents.
Great.
I'll just add briefly that implicit in Julia's responses, there's affordable housing developers, but TCB is not only a developer and a long-term owner, and with the Community Life program, but we do have in sort of part of our organization, we have property management staff. And so we work very closely. Julia and I have an adjacent group of folks right near our own office who lead the Western Mass District for property management as well. So we're able to really think through, long-term operations as we develop our work.
Rush and Julie, if I could expand that answer just a little bit too, onto the conservation land, if people would be interested. One of our thoughts is that, and one of our goals is that the conservation land not only serve this new neighborhood, but also serve the general public. So our intent is to have public access, broader public access to this land. We'll have to see what kind of excitement we can drum up in terms of how that land is actually managed. I believe at the least it will be passive recreational opportunities, trails through open meadows and into the forest land. but we'd hope to activate the agricultural land as well, both again for that new neighborhood as well as potentially for the broader community. So whether that becomes a community garden or even a community farm with a CSA aspect where people can stop by and kind of walk out and either, pick some produce there or stop at a farm stand kind of right at the entrance. Those things are all possible. They're exciting things to kind of put forth. We can't promise anything yet because there's a lot of steps that we need to take to get there. But the site offers all those possibilities. And I think one of the really interesting things about this project is that not only are we going to have conservation and affordable housing, but we're cooperating at the beginning to integrate those and plan those together and see how they can benefit each other. So we're really entering that exciting phase right now. And again, we're open to ideas, as we move forward. And I think just to also build on one of the questions that Julia had in her last slide, we've all been talking about this internally for a while. So we know how we talk about the project. We know things that we bring up. This is now going more public and we're talking to more people about it. So it'll be interesting to hear from all of you what aspects of it seem exciting. And again, what questions you think people might have as kind of this concept that, kind of we're bringing forward goes out and starts getting kind of more recognition.
Kayam or Shira, do either of you have any questions?
I mean, I guess I'll comment and just echo the excitement. I think I've been saying for the past couple meetings that it would be a good idea to sort of figure out a common ground with a lot of the energy that's behind conservation of open space in this town. And I don't know how up to date you guys have been on the development, the Sierra Vista development, which is also involves conservation land. And there's been a very targeted pushback against that from that sort of angle. So it's exciting to me to see a project that specifically focuses on the affordable housing and conservation, because I think it gives us some good, a common goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I know the Easthampton Housing Coalition definitely would be excited about this sort of project. So I'm excited to talk to them about it and see what sort of citizens, resident activism we can bring to it as well.
That's wonderful. And we're certainly, working with the local conservation community to inform them. We're actually going to be submitting a state grant for the conservation land soon. So we're soliciting support, from some of the local conservation groups. And we have some partnerships which we can't necessarily mention quite yet, but I'm excited about. So we think we're going to have support there. And they've bought into the idea, and this is a national conversation, this partnership with affordable housing for the conservation community. So I'm hopeful that, this could even serve as at least one model nationally and gain really big recognition if we can pull it off. Fingers crossed. It's definitely a complicated project.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks. Most people know me. I'm Jeff Bagg. I'm the city planner, so I'm not a member of the Affordable Partnership, but I just wanted to come and listen and just offer, from a planning perspective, support for this project. I had a couple of quick notes. Things I just wanted to mention. The team went through the Conservation Commission and had the property delineated. So the wetlands have been mapped and sort of that area has been approved by the Conservation Commission. So, that's something that I just thought was worth mentioning. So there has been a couple steps taken to study the site, which should be helpful. For the kind of Julia asked the question, but for the partnership, and I think we've talked about this before, but, making sure that the partnership and the housing coalition, for that matter, can support the narrative that we don't just need one affordable housing project in the city. We need multiple. And so, that's something that I think in the public realm, we're preparing or would expect pushback, because people will have heard about there's an ongoing project that's going through permitting that has affordable housing. We have the elementary schools, which now have a preferred developer. You're going to talk to another person tonight and this project and the narrative we really want to support is that that's good. The more, the better, because we haven't had any actual affordable housing since 2015. So we are catching up. So just being mindful of that narrative, I think is going to be really helpful. Support at the CPA. So this group, knows that the development of affordable housing is not, it's very expensive. It's costly. So there will be requests to CPA, and that group will just need support to know that they're doing the right thing. So just be mindful of that. And then one thing that I think I failed to translate out was that through the mayor's office, commissioned a study to look at the school enrollment forecasts. And we did this probably in the winter, and we looked at quite a few projects that were being constructed and projects that were in conceptual design. So that included this one. It includes some portion of the next speaker. It included Sierra Vista, it included the elementary schools. And the key finding is that projected out over 10 years, we should not see a significant impact to the school capacity. Unfortunately, because we're anticipating declining enrollment. And so the creation of new housing units and the creation of new students is actually a good thing for the city. And that was the finding of that study. So I'll make sure that's available for people. But that's going to be a talking point. That's always a question or a concern that comes up immediately. But the mayor was pretty forward thinking, and we really jumped on that data collection. And it's been determined that we can support quite a large number of housing units without a negative impact to the schools. So those were my comments.
Jackie?
Yeah, I'm psyched to hear that I knew that study had been done, and we'd talked about it before. The only thing I want to say about that in this space is that I trust that study tells us the things it's telling us, but the narrative is going to go where the narrative goes once folks are in the room who don't want this development. So I'm just putting that out there so that we recognize that that's what always happens in these cases when there are folks who are against. When the NIMBYs show up, we know what they're going to say. So we'll just have to have more people there. And that's why Chaim's here doing his thing with the Housing Coalition. So just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jackie, and also the superintendent publicly said in a recorded meeting that she was excited about the developments because it actually sustained the schools. So I think it's really important that we have her on record saying that out loud, that she is not concerned about the developments, and that in fact, due to our declining enrollment over the next 10 years, without these developments, it would actually be detrimental to the schools to have empty space that we don't need. So I think we just need to, I agree with you, we need to all be saying the same thing and have the same narrative. But I actually thought that was really helpful. I'll go to Shira, and then I actually have some also comments too, but Shira, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shira, member of the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. Jana, I thank you for having it on your screen so that I said it right. Jeff, quick question. Why is school enrollment expected to decline? Is that specific to Easthampton or nationwide, Massachusetts-wide?
I'm not an expert, but generally speaking, it's happening across a lot of communities in Massachusetts and beyond, and it's a mix of things that are contributing to that, but that is the forecast.
Okay. And a question for the TCB folks. I'm a little confused about, so the College Highway apartments currently have 40 elderly units, correct? I mean, units for elderly people.
That's right.
So did you say that those people would be moving into this?
No.
Okay.
No, we would just rehab that property, make improvements to it. It's in really lovely condition, but it does need some system updates after, being 30 years old. Just some stuff needs updated.
And that one's yours as well?
That's correct. Yes, we manage that.
Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, we already talked about worries about traffic and, things people say, but you know all this already. Traffics and lights and parking is the concerns that the residents of the College Highway apartments will have about 4 years of construction, sounds, and accessibility. So that was my only other comment.
Thank you.
I'll just round us out and say I agree that this is very exciting. I think I think in terms of like advice or things that I can think of that are going to come up. I mean, we already talked about traffic, so obviously there'll be a traffic study. While it is in a part of town that is maybe a little bit less populated, I do think there are some neighborhoods that are close to the development that will have some feelings about 90 units of apartments. I think the other thing that might come up is the size of the buildings. So we're seeing this come up at Sierra Vista Commons, which has 18 units per building. And that's based on that permitting. So at 30 units per building, obviously if you're doing a 40B, you have that flexibility. But I would just be prepared that might come up as oh my God, how could we have a 30 unit building or 3 of them in Easthampton? And I think being able to talk about all the things you talked about, passive building, I would make sure to include the materials of the building. I think the more schematics you can have of what the buildings are going to look like. We've seen that come up with the other project that really didn't have a lot of visuals to show folks right off the bat. And that I think was really missing from people's being able to identify what the site was going to look like. So I would encourage you, and you guys do this all the time, but have some really pretty pictures of what it's going to look like that help people conceptualize it instead of being here's where the buildings are going to go, because that I think is a little scary. I think the conservation piece is a huge bonus for this project and a thing that, as Kaya mentioned, has been a real sticking point on the other projects. So playing that up as you already have been about, recreation and being open to the rest of residents of Easthampton, parking, I think all those things people will be really excited about because the comments are really that's missing on the other project. And so I don't want to compare the two because they're not the same, but I just think if, gives you have the ability to know what's already going on with this other project. So you can kind of tailor how you're going to present this in a way that I think is the most beneficial to you. I think those are the biggest things that I can think of. I think so. I don't know that we really explained this very well, but Kayam is the coordinator of our Easthampton Housing Coalition, which is sort of our grassroots non-city committee group of residents. So I think they're a huge bonus for you, and you should connect with Kayam about going to speak to the Housing Coalition, because they're really the folks that we're trying to develop, and as residents and business owners and just young and old and people from all walks of life who care about housing, to make sure that they know about the project. And so I think that's a good community engagement opportunity for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And really, really great feedback.
Oh, sorry, Ben, I missed you. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, no worries. I wasn't sure if you had any response or wanted to respond to Jen or not, but I just had 2 other questions. And they're two in 2 different parts of the ballpark here. But one is, I was wondering if you could comment on the your approach to doing rental versus home ownership opportunities in terms of affordable housing. I just curious. I think both are great, but I'm just wondering if you have something about this site lent itself to rental more so. And then my other question, which is totally different, was more so for the conservation side of it. Just this site could potentially lend itself well to solar development. I know it's a little, obviously conservation of the site is a really important goal as well, and protecting important habitat. But in terms of the local and state and all of our climate goals, it seems like it's an already cleared area, and could be suitable for solar. Although you might be doing rooftop solar as well, I'm not sure. But just something that popped in my head, but because I know, so we don't want to be clearing too much more land for solar if we can help it. But so two very random questions, but wondering if you could respond to those.
Sure. So we actually have, even in responding to Jenna's question too, we've really worked through every possible scenario that could work on this parcel. 11 unit buildings, homeownership units, 20 unit buildings, all iterations. So where we've landed are 3 30-unit buildings of rental housing. Affordable homeownership development is really hard, and there's not a lot of resourcing for it, and especially in the market where we exist today with construction pricing and interest being where it is, it needs a bit of subsidy to be able to break even to make it work. And there's also concerns on the backside about equity building and it being kind of inequitable for those folks who don't get to realize their gains and the benefit of that. So for all of those reasons and the site conditions that exist here with the kind of fingers of wetlands, we're focusing on a more dense rental development here, though we do have active and ongoing conversations with a partner who might be interested in some home ownership here, but it's hard to pencil out where we stand today. The 30-unit buildings will be solar ready. We design everything to take roof mounted solar, and should we be able to secure the funds needed to install it, which we typically do, it will have solar on it.
Great. Awesome.
And I think, Julia, just to that point, the fact that you've gone through every iteration of how many, it's like, that's an important thing to be able to say publicly. Like, we looked at doing smaller buildings, but the reason why we chose a 30-unit building is whatever.
Yeah. And I think it's really, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that helps people understand that you thoughtfully considered all the different footprints and that you weren't just trying to make the biggest building that you could make on the site. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have, and we'll definitely have some kind of massing and pretty renderings for that outreach, but also the site is laid out in a way where it's kind of high at the street and slopes down. Same to the abutters on that residential road that kind of snakes back behind the site. So a 3-story building will seem lower already from where it is, and we have all kinds of tricks to design them so it feels very 2-story.
Okay, great.
I could just add, I guess you could say it's a card that we have as we kind of bring this forward, but it's certainly a tricky one and would have to be very thoughtful about it. There's 2 things here that we have to consider about the site when it comes to these questions that Benjamin brought up. One is just the site conditions. What can you fit there, physically? But there's also just the cost and the practicality of doing the project and what it's going to take to make something happen on this. It's an expensive property. So I think one of the great things about our partnership is that we're both able to leverage funding for the housing and funding for the conservation, to make it work. And it locks together like a puzzle to bring us up to just what we need to make this work to acquire the land. So that was certainly part of it, the budgeting, as well as looking at the land and what could happen. And then it's also, so if it didn't happen, that's the trickier thing. We have a pretty good site study of how we think the site could be developed. Whereas you have 3 30-unit buildings here, you have buildings with a very small footprint physically, compared to the very real possibility of the entire site being blanketed with market rate housing. Almost the entire site. It's pretty shocking to see what's possible on it. So not that you necessarily want to say, well, this is your other option, but in a way that kind of is for the community. I think this is just much better option, for the neighbors and the community, just in terms of all the goals and public goods we're meeting with this project. But anyway, it's something that we have to consider, as we go forward and how we kind of frame the project overall.
Any final questions or comments? Well, one of my questions is, does it have a name yet? Does the project, do we just keep calling it 385 Main Street for now? Okay.
I mean, we're calling it still for, again, we're about to submit a state grant application. We're calling it Growing Green Easthampton, which is our overarching project where Kestrel is trying to look at and kind of develop these affordable housing and conservation joint projects. So we've left it open, Growing Green, Easthampton. So hopefully there can be projects like this in other communities as well. We can have a Growing Green Southampton, a Growing Green Holyoke. We'll have to see in the future. We're thinking big. So that's what will be on the grant application if it comes up, publicly in the coming weeks.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments for these folks? Okay, so in the interest of time and because we have our other guests, I'm gonna have us transition to talk to One Industrial Loft, but and then at the end of the meeting, the partnership will have a chance to like chit chat for a little bit and decide if we need more time to discuss or if we're ready to move forward with supporting the project. And then I'll just let you know if that's okay, just so we can keep moving. Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming. It was really nice to see all of you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. All right. So moving right along in our agenda, I want to welcome Mike Nishon from what I usually call as One Ferry Street, but I'm going to use whatever the official name is on the application, which is One Industrial Loft, and welcome you to the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So feel free to dive right into what you would like us to know.
Right. So I guess first I'd like to talk to you about potentially, obviously, having an affordable component with one of our buildings on Ferry Street. We have 2 buildings left. We have Building 7. Right now, that's posed for a mix of condominiums and apartments, market rate. Then we have a new phase, which is on the east side of the project, which would be we'll call it the right side of the canal, or the east side of the canal. There's a boiler room building that's going to be demolished. That's right there. And on our original plan, we had a 30 to a 40 unit residential mixed use, commercial mixed use building. And now we're considering a potential affordable component there with between 75 and 100 units. So we're in discussions right now with an affordable entity that has done quite a few of these projects. And once we get a little further, I'd like to talk further with you. But unfortunately, what we're all seeing is, there really is not a lot of money out there for these projects, which is challenging. So everything pretty much comes from LIHTC and a little bit of CPA and wherever else that the investors can get pots of money. So we're kind of working on that right now, and we're hoping that if we go to pull a trigger on this affordable component, that we'll have your support.
So and when you say in discussions with an entity, is that like a developer partner? Is that a consultant?
No, they're a developer partner, so it'd be a joint venture between us. Okay. So, obviously we're developers and they're developers. We just don't have, I have not done an affordable project, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So the idea is to bring in an entity that, has done quite a few of these, and this group has done many of them. Okay. So we should know, I'm hoping I'll know within a couple of weeks that we'll have everything signed, sealed, and delivered. Okay. And then we'll be off to the races here.
Do you have a sense of like the mix of bedroom sizes for the building, or not yet?
I do have all of that math, but I really feel that I shouldn't be speaking for these guys, this group.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of bring it to the table with you to kind of give you a heads up that 99% sure it's coming.
Okay. Do other folks have questions? Other members?
I just want to say that I hope that this works out. I'm sure we're all very excited because we have all wanted to see these units in that area. And I had one quick clarification question. You said you're looking at 75 to 100 units. Did you mean affordable or mixed affordable and market rate?
There will be a mix, because
Okay.
again, there's only a certain amount that they'll be able to get that will be I think they're going to go through the entire range of the affordable.
Okay.
Again, I'm
Okay.
gonna say, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but if it's 30% all the way up to whatever, there'll be no workforce housing. We thought originally we were gonna have that happen, but that the
Okay.
money's just not there with Mass Works. Or Mass Housing, I should say, I'm sorry.
Okay. But you're also anticipating some market rate units within that.
Correct.
Just straight up market.
Correct.
Okay.
We did originally want to try to do a senior component, which we're still looking at, but DHCD doesn't, they don't identify that group. So it's going to be, we may try to do a good majority of seniors, but we're also going to have, I know we're going to have regarding bedrooms, I think there was like 4 or 5 3-bedroom units. And then the rest were going to be 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom. But again, I don't remember the percentage of affordability.
Okay.
So
can you just remind us about the rest of the like how many units are in the other what the other buildings have in them in terms of number of units?
Sure. So building 3, which we finished in 2020, that's mixed use. There's 2 residential, the rest of the building is commercial.
Okay.
That's a 30,000 square foot building. Building 5, which we finished last fall, is 60,000 square feet, and that has 36 residential and 4 commercial. Building
and are those
7.
Condos?
There are a handful of condos, yes.
Okay.
The housing regarding condominium and home ownership, because we're not a gateway city, we really can't tap into that. Just doesn't work. The math doesn't work, unfortunately. So that's hence the rentals. There are, again, there's actually office condos in building 5 as well as residential units.
Okay.
Then in building 7, there's slated for about 65 units. I don't remember the exact number, and I apologize. There'll be a portion of those will be condominiums, and the rest will be market rate. There will be some retail in that building. And then there's a hydroelectric plant that's going to be remodeled. That'll be, we're hoping we're going to have a liquor license for that. So it'll be, wine, beer, sandwiches, kind of that style. And then the balance would be this new building that would be, 75 to 100 residential units.
Okay. Thank you. That's just helpful to put it in context of
Perspective,
what else is there.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
I just want to know when we get to come have the tour. I've been dying to come look at everything over there. So let us know when we can come do a walkthrough.
Absolutely. We'll give you a rooftop tour too.
Awesome.
Jeff, go ahead.
Thanks. So similar to what I said before, it just bears repeating. The narrative that we need more housing than not new housing. So this is where the partnership will seem busy. This is the most housing discussions that we've had in quite a while, but it is all beneficial for us. So I think just as your role, communicating with people, I think that's really important. Any kind of mix of affordable housing that we can get. And we also don't want to forget that we need market rate units as well. So while your committee kind of has a specific role, and we did the housing production plan, which was focused on affordable housing, just generally speaking, we have a lack of any units really. So all is good. More is good, generally speaking. The one thing I wanted to say about Mr. Michon's project, and maybe you're aware and maybe you're not, but through the permitting in 2019, the project also got some kind of tax incentive from the city. I believe, and from what I hear, is that there's a misconception from certain people that project was supposed to have affordable housing. It was always a goal of Mike's, and we've always talked about the hope that there could be affordable housing incorporated into the project. But I think just for the partnership members and maybe the housing coalition members to know that it's not as if there was a requirement. There was always the hope. And I think as we all know that these projects take a very long time, the patient people might get the reward at the end of this, because Mike's been working really hard. I communicate with all these people, and I know that Mike's been working really hard to try to get the pieces of the puzzle to come together and provide the affordable units. And there's this opportunity, this potential chance that it could happen. And so by waiting patiently and not looking negatively towards the project, we might actually get it, and that would be a real win-win. I think Shira said, like, in this neighborhood in New City area, it would be really great to have some affordable units get baked into a project. So, and then similarly, the school enrollment study maybe didn't have all of the numbers. I think there's an uptick in the number of units, but generally speaking, with the decline and the new students, this project with the others, it should be a real nominal impact. And that study actually did attach new student growth to 3-bedroom units mainly. So some of the other projects have more 3-bedrooms, maybe this one doesn't, but this shouldn't, we did incorporate some numbers from Berry Street into the school enrollment study. So that is about all I was going to say.
So can we talk a little bit about like timeline? Because I know that you've already submitted this application to the planning board for them to start looking at this. Is that true?
So, I mean, we have approvals. This project's already been approved.
Right.
So what we're doing right now is we're actually doing what's considered a modification.
Okay.
Because basically what we're doing is we're just moving the building. And everything else pretty much stays the same, other than there's a unit count that we're going to have a little bit more units on the overall site.
Okay.
So we just want to make sure that, we're going to go back before the planning board, with Jeff, and we're going to get their blessing, and as well as obviously Conservation Commission for our stormwater drainage and et cetera. So I'm hoping that'll all be taken care of. I'm hoping at the end of the month. Maybe there'll be something that'll have to come back, but within a few weeks after that, I would say we'd be ready to go. And then, realistically, if this group, if we can, get everything squared away, the group will, they'll file in September, October, whenever the first round is. And we'd be looking at potentially, 2025 as a start date.
Okay. Do we anticipate this will invoke a public hearing? Like, is this gonna at the planning board level?
Yep. Yeah. So the public hearing has been set for July 25th. Okay. I think Mr. Michon's description is pretty accurate. I mean, the full project has already been permitted, and so the building change is relatively minor. And then for whatever reason, the way we structured it, there was 150 units was the maximum. And so that's the adjustment that the applicant wants to make, to have the ability to go up in units to, I think we're talking 225 as the upper limit. So yeah, I think by August, I think it'd be reasonable to have the permit amended.
Okay.
So it's pretty straightforward at this point.
Shira, go ahead.
Yeah, and something.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Oh, Mike, I think I just wanted to say that we don't want you to feel like you have to come to these meetings to present to us. We want to work with you also, I believe. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. But you had mentioned before that you were looking at different resources, and don't forget that we are also a resource who can help connect you with ideally some more money. or whatever you might need to help get this project going.
That'd be great. We that's what makes, especially with our interest rates and our construction pricing right now, this is a challenging time, I really have to say. I mean,
Yeah.
we would already have actually building 7 going, but we just can't get electrical components and on a project this big. If we don't get a commitment from a vendor, I'm not going to start a project. So, we made it through COVID. We made it through the majority of this supply chain issue, but the supply chain issue is still looming, and it's very uncomfortable when you get into these bigger projects.
Yeah, I guess I was just asking about the hearing, just in one, like thinking about like, is there going to be, who's going to care about this, right? Is there going to be opposition? I mean, the original hearings for the original permit, you got tons of support. I don't think there was any opposition. So I'm just trying to think, like, from the housing partners' perspective, what might happen at the public hearing. But it doesn't sound like we are anticipating a lot of fanfare, as the project's already permitted and this is just changing one building. Is that fair to say? Jeff, you don't have to raise your hand, Jeff. You can just unmute yourself.
I mean, no one has a crystal ball, but
right.
Having someone from the partnership potentially trying to attend would be useful in making sure that there's someone there to say that more units are good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think generally speaking, we don't want people to be fearful of an increase in units, for this project. So just that continued narrative that, any units are useful. If the project can incorporate affordable units, that's really great as well for the city's goals. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have the conservation component that the previous project does have, but the consolidation of the site, it's a very compact, it's centrally located, it's near the bike path, and it's reusing a previously highly disturbed site. So where it doesn't have the conservation component as a contributor, it's really the reuse, a dense site, and kind of in the right location for that. So it was sort of a compact development. So that's kind of how it does fit the goals of the city for reusing those mills for whatever use. And so that's kind of where I think it really won last time. It was a good example of units per acre. The impact or the size of the site is small and the unit count high, and that's a benefit.
Great. Any other members have any questions or comments that they want to share? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think we want a chance to just like chat about it, but I anticipate I think this seems like I think everybody's excited about this idea, and I agree. I think we all kind of hoped there would be affordable housing on the site, and so I'm glad that we are at a place where that seems possible. So thank you for considering it.
That's great. Thank you. So do you folks meet once a month, or do you?
We usually meet the fourth Thursday of the month. We have we're like a little bit off schedule in the summer usually. So we had this meeting tonight to hear from the 385 Main Street folks. We're meeting again on August 3rd. And then we're not meeting again until the end of September. So we typically take some time off in the summer, and we've kind of like been pushing some meetings in, but usually it's the fourth Thursday of the month.
Okay. It's good information. Good to know.
Okay. Jeff.
I raised your hand. So, in speaking of like a deliverable out of this meeting, or maybe it's the next meeting, if Mr. Michon does maybe come back or can provide confirmation that things have gelled together in a way that would be desirable for the affordable housing, maybe, Mike, I don't know if you're looking for a letter of support potentially to go along with whatever that October application would be, or if that's the conversation that we want to move this towards eventually, whenever that's the right time.
That's exactly correct, Jeff. I mean, that's what I would be looking for, from the group here, that we can have support, obviously, as well as the city, to support the overall project in October. And I think that's kind of the game plan right now. But again, I don't want to speak out of line, because it's really not, I'm a JV partner, and this is not my wheelhouse. So
Okay. Well, I think that timeline works very well for us. If I mean, I'm sure we could do it before that, but if you don't need it till October, that's good too.
okay. So will somebody attend the planning board meeting?
Yes, we'll figure out who can attend. I will be on vacation, but I could always attend remotely. But we'll figure out who can be there. But I think it's
Okay, that's
important that
great.
we're there. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Do we want to keep, I mean, I guess my question to all of you, I don't want us to feel rushed, is if we want to think about these two projects and come back in August and talk about them, or if we're ready to talk about supporting one or both of them tonight. I sort of want feedback from all of you on how you want to proceed. Which means someone has to unmute themselves and talk to me.
I'm happy to attend the July 25th meeting and I don't know, like report back on the July 25th public hearing for one industrial loss.
Okay.
See if we can get a little bit more information from that and see what the general feeling from the public is.
Okay, Jackie, you guys can just talk to me. Maybe I don't have to keep going. I appreciate
Sorry,
the hand raising, but it's just,
I was also typing while trying to do that because I'm doing minutes, but I think we don't know enough about the Ferry Street project to like say I'm excited about the idea of it, absolutely, but I want to hear more like who is this secret developer and what's this going to look like, what's going to happen. So I feel like once we have more of a handle on that, we can say absolutely we're going to write letters of support, you know, that sort of thing. I feel ready already to I would make a motion for us to support the community builders projects right now if that's helpful. I don't see any real downside to that. But that's one woman's opinion.
I agree with Jackie. I really like the 385 Main Street project. I think it achieves a lot of really important goals and seems like a great team and partnership. And I'm kind of I guess what is their next step that we would be writing a letter for? I kind of got lost on that, but is it? I think they have some grant applications or I guess the 40B process maybe.
yeah, I think for TCB, it's really, they're going to want to go before the Community Preservation Act Committee.
Right.
I think, where's my notes? Fairly soon, I think in September, and then they'll also be planning to submit their 40B application. I think they need a letter of support for the 40B application. And I think we would want to be able to go to the CPA committee meetings and say like, yes, we support, if that's what we decide, yes, that we support it. So I think that one is I agree that one feels a little bit more timely if we are feeling ready to make that decision. And then it seems like for one industrial lofts, we really don't need he doesn't need a letter of support until October. And I think to Jeff's point, anybody being able to show up on July 25th to like talk about the project and support in general, or that we are excited about this, but I kind of agree that we might need a little bit more information about what they're planning to do. But yeah, so I think to answer your question, Ben, the TCB letter of support, I think is a little bit more time sensitive.
Great.
Do we want to keep deliberating? Go ahead, Kai.
I sort of feel the same way as Jackie. I think that the Ferry Street project, it definitely like, we want to hear who the developer is, if they've actually solidified their plans to do anything. But with the community builders, I think like they are established in the community. Like, we know that they've managed and developed other affordable housing projects. And yeah, I think it's fitting those two pieces of the affordable housing and the conservation together that we've really been looking for. So yeah, I'd be willing to support that based on what I know already. And, you know, I'm excited, like I said before, I'm excited to bring some of the information that they gave to us to the coalition and see what the thoughts are there.
Well, Jackie, do you want to go ahead and make your motion?
I can. I just have one more question that I didn't think about before, which is, and Julia, if you're still on the call, or Rashana, do you already have the project eligibility letter from DHCD for that project?
I don't know if Julia is still here, but I'm here. We do not yet. No, we haven't taken that step. We wanted to come meet with this group. Again, very early. We don't have, you know, the renderings and so on that we want to be able to share with the public, but we wanted to reach out to you early on. So we don't yet, but we expect to be requesting that soon.
Thank you.
So do we have, do we want to make a motion? Yeah.
That doesn't stop me from supporting the project. It was just kind of one of those outstanding questions. But so yeah, I will make a motion that we, let me think of how to word this, because it's going to need more things. So maybe the motion is just that the housing partnership will support the project, be that writing letters of support, showing up at meetings, etc. Doesn't feel like a very specific motion, but
do you want to authorize me to write a letter of support on the partnership's behalf?
Yes, let's make that part of the motion.
Does anyone want to second the motion?
Second.
All right. So let's do a roll call vote just because we're on Zoom. So Shira.
Aye.
Kayam.
Aye.
I'm Jana. I'm I. And do I have to ask Jackie and Ben, even though they most? I guess so. Jackie.
Aye.
Ben.
Yes.
Great. Great. That was easy. Great. So I will move forward. I can check in with the TCB folks, but I can move forward with writing a letter of support that meets whatever the criteria is that they need for their things. And then we hope they'll keep, I'll ask that they keep us in touch about when they're going to CPA so that we can be involved in that, and then when the 40B process starts. And is anyone else able to go to the July 25th hearing? That's also Sierra Vista Commons has a public hearing that night also. Is that true, Jeff? Yes.
Yes, and
Oh, that'll be a fun one.
for clarity purposes, we set the public hearing for Ferry Street at 6:45. And the way it works is we can't guarantee it'll start right at 6:45, but it won't start for that.
But who goes before 6:45? Sierra Vista Commons?
Yes.
So like it won't start until like 8.
It's possible. There's a chance that they will continue. I think there's a couple definitely things in motion, like things in. I think there could be a chance it gets continued. Okay. But we already set the public hearing for Ferry Street at 6:45, so that's probably the likely start time.
Or later. Okay. All
or
right,
later.
great.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we're meeting again on August 3rd, which was sort of our regular meeting. So we can go back to the things that we were talking about for this, which was like priorities and other things we wanted to work on. And then if anything else comes up, I mean, we might have more information after the July 25th hearing about Ferry Street, about the developer that's going to be their partner, because I am curious who that is. I don't have anything else tonight. Does anyone else have anything else? Thank you all for doing a special meeting in July. I appreciate it because I think this was really important. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.